See this. What's good, everybody? I'm about to start this shit in a few. What's up, Q? What's up? Give me 1 second. All right, I'm gonna share this video for a few more people. See what Give me 1 second. You said, what did I think about the verses last night? It was pretty interesting for the most part. I didn't watch the whole thing. I took a nap when I got back home, and I woke up like 10:30, and I think I was like an hour late. But once I watch the whole thing, I'll probably let you know. All right, I'm just gonna get started right now. What's good, YouTube? How y'all doing? It's your boy Reg in the building and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So today I am going to do something kind of epic. I am going to do a discography breakdown on the Rolling Stones and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be real with you. I'm gonna split this into two parts, and I'm gonna do the first part all the way up to Tattoo You and everything. So I'm gonna do everything from like the first album of the Tattoo You, and then next week Friday, I'll definitely do. Next week Friday, I'll do the remaining albums and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? So let's get this shit started. All right, so Rolling Stones, and the reason why I kind of wanted to do this, the reason why I wanted to do this is because I heard the recent album that they came out with, and I definitely fuck with it and everything like that too. Originally, I was going to do a video about like their '80s run, but I said to myself, lately I've been kind of like in the Rolling Stones kind of vibe lately and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'll be like, why not just do a discography breakdown? I know they dropped like 40 something albums or some shit. So originally I was gonna try to do the whole thing today, but this whole week I just been kind of this whole week has been kind of like a very busy week for me and everything like that with work and then DJing on it, getting ready for this gig this Sunday and everything. So I was like, I didn't really have time to listen to all the Stones albums that I wanted to do. Some of the albums some albums I already know front and back. I ain't gonna hold you, but some albums I had to get a refresher on and shit. So I was like, since I feel like Tattoo You was like a strong album in its own right. I was like, let me just stop there for part one because I'm not really trying to do this for like hours and hours and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So you guys should know who the Rolling Stones are. They're English rock band and stuff like that, pool stuff like that. You know, coming from London. Um, the original formation, they were formed with Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Brian Jones, Bill Wyman, and Charlie Watts, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much Mick and Keith were like childhood friends. They had a strong love for like the blues and rock and roll and everything like that too. And then pretty much, they often like saw each other in gigs and everything like that too. They just had a kindred soul, kindred love for the blues. That's what really got them together and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Um, and then as the years went on, like I said, I'm just gonna go by the history and everything. As the years went on, they added other members too. Like of course Ian Stewart, who was like the piano player. I'm gonna be real with you. I call Ian Stewart like the sixth Rolling Stone, if you ask me, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. So they ended up playing a few more gigs and shit, and you know what I'm saying. They signed with Andrew Long Oldham as their manager and stuff like that too. So fast forward to 1964, they dropped like their first album. Give me one second. They dropped their first album, which is pretty much called their self-titled album, plus England's newest hit makers. So this album came out in 1964. So literally, the UK, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the UK version was just a self-titled album, but in the US, they called themselves England's newest hit makers and shit like that too. Um, this album, like I said, this is like a pretty standard album for its time and everything like that too. Because you got to remember, the British invasion was pretty much happening, which really was spearheaded by like the Beatles coming to America and whatnot too. You know what I'm saying? So this album, they pretty much carry their love for like R&B and blues and everything like that too. You know, they didn't really have like a lot of songs that they wrote. I think they only had like one song that they wrote together, which was called like "Tell Me You're Coming Back" and everything like that too. But this one was okay. I mean, if you like that kind of sound and everything like that too, you know what I'm saying? That bluesy, that bluesy covers and everything. I do like the cover of "Can I Get a Witness?" That was pretty cool by Marvin Gaye. Which they will do more Motown covers to come. Little by little, that cover was pretty straight and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely gonna give this a 3.5 out of 5 and everything. All right. And just to let you know, these first couple of albums are probably gonna be like the most breeziest Rolling Stones albums we're gonna talk about and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? This is what I like to call like their most fun period, if that makes sense. And then we're gonna get into 12 times five. So 12 times five was the second album they came out with and shit. You know what I'm saying? Again, you're pretty much getting more R&B covers and everything like that too. But at the same time, like the songwriting between Mick and Keith definitely was going more stronger and everything like that. I'm gonna be real with you. I do like this album a bit more than England's newest hitmakers. Not by much, but I feel like it definitely was produced better and everything. I love their cover of like "Time Is on My Side." That was a pretty dope cover. That was a pretty dope cover and everything like that too. "Time Is on My Side." That was a cover of that was like a jazz song and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Irma Thomas also covered that song as well. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. Also they did a cover of Under the Boardwalk. That was pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. Again, this one was slightly better. This one's slightly better and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, we're still far from like the classic Stones and shit. So I'm still gonna give it like a 3.5 out of 5, I guess. And then we're gonna go into 1965 with the Rolling Stones Now. You know what I'm saying? This is actually their third studio album that they came out with and shit. You know what I'm saying? Um, their progression as artists was definitely going by this point and everything like that too, you know what I'm saying? So by this point, they were definitely getting more crossover success and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? It would take pretty much one song, which I will get into in a minute, that would really explode them. But yeah, this album was very, very, very dope and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you have songs like I love Heart of Stone. That was pretty cool and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Just let you know, Mick Jack and Keith Richards definitely added four more compositions here. You know what I'm saying? They also had the Mona I Need You Baby. That was a cover of Bo Diddley and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, again, we're still not quite in the classic era yet, but at the same time, yeah, it was still dope. Q said, if I'm not mistaken, did the Rolling Stones catch a lot of backlash from the black community? Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I don't really know if there was like backlash per se because I feel like, with like a lot of acts at that time, like a lot of black artists and black acts at a time, a lot of them weren't really able to get like a lot of crossover success with certain songs. But let's just say like a British group or pop group will cover their song and it will explode. Like prime example, Little Richard's Tutti Frutti. That was a big song and everything like that too. But then when Pat Boone covered that song, that of course exploded and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying too. And keep in mind, not a lot of black artists at that time had their face on album covers and shit too. So sometimes a lot of those black artists, sometimes like a lot of those black artists, they won't really get national appeal because sometimes people like sometimes like the general crowd might listen to them and saying, "Oh, they definitely sound white and everything." Then they when they see them in concert and if they're black, it will be just be a whole culture shock and shit. But yeah, this was definitely a pretty cool album. All right, now we're gonna go into 1965's "Out of Our Heads." Um, this was a very cool album and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? So with this album right here, they definitely found like that right formula and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And it was really one song that really skyrocketed them, and that song is "I Can't Get No Satisfaction." Like we all know that with that dun 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 dun. Dun. Yeah, we all know that song and shit like that too. Pretty dope song. That was actually one of their first international hits, and that was really like one of the songs that really put them commercially on like the same path as like the Beatles and Who, and it just really was what put them in that whole trinity and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because you guys know how like in these days people talk about musical trinities and stuff like that too. Hold on one second. People talk about musical trinities and stuff like that, but in that time when it came to like the British invasion and everything like that too, you know what I'm saying? People were looking like at the Beatles and the Stones and the Who and shit, you know what I'm saying? Oh God. All right. And then continue on with this album, like they still had like their Motown, they still had like the Motown covers and stuff like that too, which Hitchhike, they loved a lot of Marvin Gaye and everything. They covered Sam Cooke with Good Times and stuff like that too. Also, what I forgot to mention is that some albums, especially when we talk about some albums during the '60s, they have the UK version and the US version. Like the US version will sometimes have like the commercial song, like the songs that will get people's attention. Where the UK version will mostly just be more like covers, because you got to remember also around the '60s, a lot of like British invasion, a lot of like the British, they fucking was more influenced by the blues and R&B and stuff like that too, because in the US, like the blues like around like the '60s was kind of like losing popularity in a way and stuff like that too, you know what I'm saying? Especially by the time rock and roll coming out, and then we're not even gonna mention like soul music, the Motowns and the Stacks and the Atlantics and stuff like that too. Like blues was still popular, like really in its own audience, but at the same time too, in the UK, like overseas, it had like a resurgence. Like people were more gravitating to that, especially when like a lot of these groups was covering their material, like the Animals and of course the Stones and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of why like the UK edition had like a lot more covers and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And also it's just for marketing reasons. Let's just keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? But Out of Our Heads, this is definitely another strong album and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? And I just realized I actually just oh, so okay, so that's how. So okay, and also I forgot to mention. So this is actually the UK. This is actually the UK album cover of Out of Our Heads and stuff like that too. I'm gonna show y'all what the US album cover looks like. And this is probably the best known cover of the album and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Give me 1 second. So this is the album cover that if you get it in the US, I'm gonna be real with you. I kind of prefer this cover and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna explain why when we get to the next album and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But but the Rolling Stones in the earlier days, they never really made the best album covers. So it's just like, yeah, whatever. All right, so now we're gonna go into December's Children. Now, this is pretty much like the sister album to Out of Our Heads and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Um, and it definitely uses the same album cover as the UK version of Out of Our Heads. Me personally, I prefer I prefer this album cover for December's Children than for Out of Our Heads. And cause I feel like with these a time like December's Children, this definitely has like a more winter feel to it and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So this is one of those albums that you we're gonna definitely talk more about when we talk about the Stones that I want to call a transitional album. And of course, you guys know that a lot was changing and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying when it comes to transitional albums. And in the Stones case, this is pretty much the album where they it was the last album where they would have like a lot of cover songs. And even like Bill Wyman has said that Mick Jagger felt like this album was just like a collection of songs that they did and just to release for commercial use and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Um, I definitely do like some songs from this album. Get Off My Cloud. I love that record. Hey, you get off of my cloud. I mostly like when that song is performed live. I mostly like when that song is like performed live compared to the studio version. Then you got I'm Free. I'm free to do what I want. Like that song. You know what I'm saying? They got You Better Move On. That was pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, this one it it's like on the same vein as like some previous albums, but at the same time too, you know what I'm saying? They definitely was like, yeah, we got to change the game with the next one, and they changed the game indeed with 1966 Aftermath, one of my favorite Rolling Stones albums they've ever done. I'm gonna keep it real with you and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? So the story with this album was the fact that this was really the album that they really was like artistically they were going to take a chance and everything like that too. So a lot was happening when it came to this album. For one, Brian Jones pretty much started experimenting with different instruments like the sitar, the Japanese koto, the marimbas, and everything like that too, trying to give it them like a more international psychedelic kind of sound and everything like that too. And then Mick and Keith, this is actually the first album where like Mick and Keith wrote all the songs and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Um, Also, you know, with this time, they definitely they definitely was kind of getting like screwed over. Um, but actually, I'm gonna talk more about that when we talk about the future albums and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And actually, you know what? Fuck it, I'll talk about that. So they were pretty much about to get screwed over because they got in cahoots with Alan Klein. And if you guys know about Alan Klein, he's kind of like a shady businessman, like shady music executive. Let's be real, he tried to fuck up. Let's be real, he was trying to fuck up Sam Cooke's career. Watch the documentaries, read the books, you'll know what I'm talking about. And pretty much, he pretty much trying to screw over their royalties and stuff like that too. And he actually wanted to actually get them a royalty advance, but see, the royalty events, he would try to trick them into getting like a lot of financial wealth and everything, but then he would actually get money for certain albums that they've done in years to come, which we'll talk more about that and stuff like that. And also around this time too, they pretty much was they pretty much was like, dating like a lot of women at this time too. A lot of women were doing them dirty and shit. And you know, they started writing a lot of songs like bashing women and stuff too. You know what I'm saying? Also around this time, their drug use was definitely getting more and more rampage. You know what I'm saying? Brian Jones was starting to get into it with like making Key over Control, which again we'll talk more about that in albums to come. So with all that going on, this album definitely created like a more darker feel compared to like some of the other Stones album that they came out with. Some of the other Stones album that they came out with, like in the previous, and songs like Painted Black. I love that song and everything like that too. Which, again, that song you can only find on the U.S. version and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that song right there was definitely more of like a surprise hit and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And also it definitely charted more well in the US compared to the UK, because I feel like when that song came out, from what I looked up, a lot of the British felt like they were trying to copy the Beatles, which I'm glad I'm gonna put a pin note on the Beatles because it's actually kind of surprising. I haven't really talked about the beat, and I'm gonna be real with you. I'm not really gonna mention the Beatles too much when we talk about the Stones, unless if it's actually needed. So these earlier kind of albums, I'm only going to mention the Beatles here and there and stuff like that too. Because sometimes people will be like to compare the Beatles and the Stones the same way people like to do to Michael Jackson and Prince and all that stuff. So yeah, man. So like Painted Black, like if you listen to that song, it definitely had like a more psychedelic, more feel to it and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Also, you got songs like Stupid Girl. I love that record. Under My Thumb. Under My Thumb. That was another big song right there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like you can definitely like see a lot of the instrumentation on this album was definitely more looser, more stripped down and everything like that too. My opinion, controversial opinion, this is the Stones' first classic album and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, we're going to talk more about a lot of their classics in years to come and everything like that too. But when it comes to the Stones, that the album that really made an impression and stuff like that too, this album to me is the album that they really kicked it off with. So I'm gonna give this album controversially, I'm gonna give this a 5 mics and everything. Yeah, it's that fucking good. But I definitely recommend the US version just for like Painted Black. 'Cause like I said, I feel Painted Black definitely fit the album and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Um, so yeah, after the release of excuse me, after the release of Aftermath and everything like that too, you know what I'm saying? They pretty much was like enjoying like their success, the fame, touring, smashing women and everything like that too. And so while they were on tour, they dropped their first live album, Got Live If You Want It. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be real with you. Live album, there's one live album that I definitely want to talk about in the future, and I think you guys know which one if you guys are diehard Stones fans. So, but this one is definitely good too. It definitely captured the Stones when I talk about their free period and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Which I kind of consider 62 to 66 their free period and everything. And no album better capitalize that than 1967 when we come with Between the Buttons and everything like that too. that too. You know what I'm saying? This is one of my favorite Stones albums of all time, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? This album, I fucking love this record. You know what I'm saying? This is definitely a more fun, free spirited album and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, one thing, the best way to describe this album is the Rolling Stones going baroque pop. Like, you can definitely see a lot of it. I don't remember, I see a lot of like Beach Boys influences and stuff like that when it comes to like that baroque atmosphere and shit. You know what I'm saying? And again, Brian Jones was also expanding his instrumentation and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this definitely between the buttons, this definitely was a very strong album and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? It is pretty much an album where it's like a lot more looser when it comes to the sound and everything like that too. It's not as psychedelic as Aftermath, but at the same time too, it definitely still carries that art rock tradition. Now, again, we have a reason why the U.S. version is better than the U.K. version, and that's because of the first song on the U.S. version, "Let's Spend the Night Together." One of my all-time favorite songs. What up, Ray? One of my all-time favorite songs they've ever done. Every time I hear that piano riff and everything like that too, and that's actually you had Keith Richards and Jack Nitsky on piano and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. Every time you hear that dun 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 ba da 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 ba 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 da, I just love that those harmonies and everything like that too. So a little story with that song. That song was again a kind of like a controversial song due to like a lot of like their sexually explicit lyrics and everything like that too. It got to the point when they were performing the song, on the Ed Sullivan show. Ed Sullivan pretty much wanted them to say, "Let's spend some time together" instead of "Let's spend the night together." You know what I'm saying? And if you guys watch that performance, Mick Jagger's pretty much rolling his eyes every time he has to say, "Let's spend some time together." But at the same time, too, it's still a damn good performance and everything like that, too. It's still a fun performance to watch. And that's actually what got them temporarily banned from Ed Sullivan's show. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, "Let's Spend the Night Together." That's a very dope song. And also check out the David Bowie cover of that song from the Aladdin Sane album from 1973. Very dope album too. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man. Again, this is definitely like their most London album. You have songs like "My Obsession." Oh my God, "My Obsession." It's your obsession. That's like my favorite record on that song. Either that one or "Yesterday's Papers." My only gripe with "Yesterday's Papers," I wish that was a little bit longer and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? "Complicated" was dope too. "She Smiles Sweetly." She smiles sweet. I mean, yeah, man. That this whole album is definitely a very, very, very looser album and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So very, very, very great album. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm also gonna give this a 5 mic too. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, very dope album. All right. So after the release of Between the Buttons, you know, that same year, they dropped a couple of things that year and everything like that too. But before we do that and shit, so with around this period, you know what I'm saying, was definitely getting the reputation of like the bad boys of rock and roll, and they pretty much got a lot of drug busts and everything like that too. One drug bust in particular pretty much happened after a raid in Keith Richards' house and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And allegedly they caught Mick, Keith and Marion Faithful, who was like mixed girlfriend at the time, had like a sexual act with like a Mars bar or some shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like around that time too, they were just getting booked on a lot of drug busts, but that was like the best known one and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So while they were fighting legal issues, the label wanted them to drop the compilation flowers and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? And excuse me, this is pretty much like a greatest hits and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially from that period. Yeah, like if you're a fan of the Stones from that period, I would definitely recommend you getting flowers and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? And with them having like a lot more rampant drug usage and everything like that too, you know what I'm saying? It definitely take a toll on a lot of times in the studio. And also around the time in 1967, the Beatles also dropped the Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band album and everything like that, which definitely changed the way how albums were made and everything like that too. Definitely was like an influential game changer. What up, Yuko? What's up? Influential game changer and whatnot too. So here's the thing with the Sgt. Pepper album. And like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the Beatles and everything like that too. But a lot of cats wanted to jump on that psychedelic train and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? A lot of those British cats wanted to jump on them, and a lot of people often want to say, "Oh, Sergeant Pepper created psychedelic rock." I don't. No, 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 no. They did not create. Like, you gotta remember. You gotta remember. Like, when it comes to psychedelic rock, man, you gotta remember. I'm a fan of cats like The Doors, Jefferson Airplane. Free. Um, what's that one group? What's that one group? What's that one group? The Animals. Cream. Like their first two albums, I would kind of say that's like psychedelic blues rock, if you ask me, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Hell, I would even say like the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds was more proto psychedelic than anything, if you ask me. And so a lot of those groups was trying to go that route, and of course the Stones definitely were going that route too, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And so that's when they came out with their next album, which I'm gonna be real with you, this is actually my least favorite Stones albums of all time. Their Satanic Majestic Request. Oh, Jesus Christ. So a lot was happening around this time as well too, and everything. So this album was actually the first album that they did without Andrew Long Oldham as like their manager slash producer. They had like some falling out, you know what I'm saying? And pretty much, they had a falling out, he couldn't really control them. All their issues started piling up and piling up. And let's just be real, he did not also fuck with Alan. Well, hmm, I mean, let me not say that because like he let Alan Klein deal with them and stuff like that too, and so that proved to be a big mistake in its own right. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man. So, but that being said, and everything like that too, Alan Klein was like their new manager, and the thing about with this album was like they weren't really in the studio like that together. That's why I kind of like this album kind of sounds all misjointed and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So I think the only one that was really in the studio consistently was like Bill Wyman and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And he pretty much like wrote a song. He pretty much wrote a song and stuff like that too for this album called "In Another Land," where it's like pretty much parodying what like the Stones were going through at that time. With the drug usage and the discourse and everything like that too. But I know you guys are asking me why I don't like the album because I know a lot of Stones fans love this record and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Okay, here's the thing. I praised the albums like Aftermath and Between the Buttons, and I did say that they do range from psychedelic to some psychedelic leanings and stuff like that too. And with that being said, you know what I'm saying? It's like they weren't even trying. They weren't even trying to be that psychedelic route. It just naturally happened. Satanic, you can definitely tell like they were forced and everything like that too. And even like some of the songs itself is just like what? Like 2000 light years from home. She's a rainbow. Oh my god, I did not like this shit. I think in another land that was good and everything, you know what I'm saying? Like sing this all together. Uh, I just don't fuck with this shit. Like I'll be real with you. I just don't fuck with this album and everything like that too. It's like Jesus. It's like Jesus Christ. It's like, and then motherfuckers want to be all like, "Oh, this is better than Aftermath and Between them." I was like, No, fuck." I'm like, "Fuck no, fuck no," and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So this album right here was pretty straight. And also too, what a lot of people either know or don't know is the fact that you actually had background vocals from like Paul and John, and it's Paul and John from the Beatles and stuff like that on this album. Um, what was the song? What was the song? Give me 1 second. I got. Give me 1 second. Let me find out what that song was. Yeah, they did background vocals on the song "We Love You" and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? But it was actually uncredited, believe it or not. So that's kind of interesting and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, this album right here, I was not a fan. I'm gonna probably give this like a two mics and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? All right, so I know I'm gonna actually cheat a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not actually going to talk about a song. I'm not actually going to talk about an album next. I'm actually going to talk about a song, and it's Jumpin' Jack Flash. You know what I'm saying? So this is actually the standalone single that came out in the summer of '68. So this song was pretty much what many people consider like a return to like their blues rock roots and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Because they spent the previous albums doing some baroque psychedelia and everything like that too, where this song definitely had that more distinctive guitar riff, like that dun dun, 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 like that classic Keith Richards guitar riff and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is definitely one of my all-time favorite Stone songs, maybe a top five favorite Stone song if you ask me. You know what I'm saying? So, and a lot of people have also said like the riff definitely sound like Satisfaction. I always felt like this song was definitely a more grittier, leaner Satisfaction, if you ask me. So yeah, this is definitely a classic song and shit. You know what I'm saying? So now we're gonna go into 1968, and we're gonna go into the Beggars Banquet album and shit like that, which a lot of fans have went on to say that this is actually their beginning of what they call the classic period. And for many diehard Rolling Stones fans, they like to say that anything between Beggars Banquet and the Exile on Main Street album is like their classic period. The album where they can never do no wrong and stuff like that too. Okay, I'm not okay. You guys know if you guys watched, I've kind of not really the biggest fan of this album compared to a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? And I do like the fact that it is definitely actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not. I'm gonna give the other album cover for this one because I never liked that album cover. I never liked that album. I like the more grittier album cover that looks like it's in like a toilet and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Give me 1 second. Yeah. All right. So this is the album cover I fucking love from the album and stuff like that too. It feels more natural and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Um, this cover actually got banned and everything like that too, because the graffiti in the toilet and the shit like that too. They felt like, oh, we're gonna scare the youth and shit. You know what I'm saying? So they had to have that simple as they had to have that simple as cover with like the cursive and everything like that too. Okay, but back to the point. Yeah. So this definitely was definitely more bluesier. It had like a lot of textures with country music, and a lot of that really had to do with also like the influence of like Graham Parsons from like the Birds and everything like that too. The Birds, they're like that psychedelic, they're like that psychedelic folk rock group and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? Um, but it definitely does still have some bluesiness to is it too. You know what I'm saying? Like I do like songs like Street Fighting Man. I like that one. Um Dear Doctor was cool. But the thing with this album that I don't like compared to like some of the future albums, it definitely be geared towards more country than blues, in my opinion. And I don't know. Like I'm not really the biggest country guy. I'm not really the biggest country guy and everything like that too. But at the same time too, um, I do like a lot of some of the songs here. You can definitely tell like the artistic evolution with this one. Now, I can't end off this without talking about Symphony for the Devil. Okay, you know, I like this song, but I never really liked it compared to other people. This is another one of those songs I mostly prefer when they did it live. Most importantly, I like the version they did that when they did that Rolling Stones Circus concert that they did in like 1967, 68. You know what I'm saying? In other words, a concert where the Who showed their ass, and that's pretty much why Mick pretty much shelved that concert for years. Let's keep it a buck and shit. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. But at the same time, too, you know what I'm saying? Sympathy for the Devil, of course, that was a controversial song and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Because people were looking at them like they were like satanics and everything like that too, and shit. You know what I'm saying? But Mick actually was not. He wasn't. Of course, they were not satanic, but they actually wanted to do something where they wanted to show us the sympathy for the devil. Well, like hence the title, like provide a devil in like a more complex three-dimensional figure and shit like that too, in a weird way. But like I said before, I prefer like the live version of this song. And there's actually another song where they actually tackle this subject matter, which surprisingly I kind of like better than Symphony for the Devil. But Beggar's Banquet, despite what I've said, I do like the album. Do I love it? Nah, but I like it, and like equals a good four mics. So, all right. So Beggar's Banquet, that got them pretty much more control and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And excuse me, it got to the point where it was just like, yeah, they were definitely ready to take more control and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So, but at the same time too, Brian Jones was getting more heavier in his drug usage and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And at this time, his girlfriend he was dating left him for Keith Richards, and that caused a lot of issues between Keith, Brian, caused a lot of issues between Keith, Brian, and Mick, of course, and everything like that, because like his drug usage definitely made him more unreliable and whatnot. You know, it definitely made him more unreliable and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, excuse me. With that being said, you know, his usage within the next album was actually slowing down and stuff like that too. And so, of course, Mick and Keith, Mick and Keith, they were definitely trying to cover face and stuff like that too. And they were auditioning for more guitarists. Enter Mick Taylor. Now, Mick Taylor definitely, in my opinion, with all due respect to Keith Richards, the best guitarist the Stones has ever had, in my opinion. And you guys, if you guys watch this channel over the years, you guys know that I'm a huge fan when it comes to like the Mick Taylor era of the group and stuff like that because it just reinforced that bluesy atmosphere. It reinforced that bluesy atmosphere of the group and everything like that too. But at the same time, it gave it like a more complex, harder lean and shit. You know what I'm saying? And Mick Taylor at the time, before the Stones, he was a member of John May John Mayall's the Blues Breakers and stuff like that too, which was like a blues rock band, of course, at that time and everything. So he definitely had like a history of the blues and shit. And so he impressed Mick Jack and Keith Richards, and they invited him to the session to Let It Bleed album. But then tragedy struck um, when in July 5th, 1969, Brian Jones was found in his pool, drowned and stuff like that too. So he definitely passed away and everything like that too. It's like a lot of controversy with his death because some people think it's foul play involved when it comes to that and everything. So it's definitely a lot of that, but at the same time too, Brian Jones definitely laid a foundation and everything for the band and everything like that too. And yeah, man, and I know people sometimes have that criticism with Brian Jones and everything, but I'm just going to focus more on the music and what they brought to the table. So also, with that, with all the turmoil going and the drug usage still being a heavy factor in the band and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? The Let It Bleed album definitely was like a lot more chaotic and shit because Keith Richards at the time, like Mick Taylor, he was higher, but he wasn't really. He didn't. I mean, he only played guitar on like a few songs. Keith Richards pretty much did a lot. Like he was playing electric guitar, acoustic guitar, slide guitar. Hell, he even played bass on a few times too. You know what I'm saying? So he definitely was trying to do. He definitely was doing a lot, just picking up the slack and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So that's when 1969, this album, Let It Bleed, finally came out and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? Give me 1 second. So yeah, this album finally came out 1969. Very dope album, in my opinion. Very, 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 very dope album. One of my all-time favorite Rolling Stones albums they ever come out. This album definitely represented the end of the 60s, the death of the 60s, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And the song that really kicked it off was the song "Give Me Shelter." I mean, that song right there is such an iconic, timeless record. Very dark, very grimy, something very unlike what they've done up to that point and everything. But the real key with that song was the guest vocalist, Mary Clayton, and Mary Clayton and everything like that too. She definitely was one of the more unsung heroes when it came to like a lot of the Stone songs and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? She also done work with like Ray Charles, where she was also one of the Raylettes and everything like that too. So she also had a history of that. So a little history with that song. So that whole time when she's like screaming and belting, she was actually pregnant when she was actually pregnant when she did that. You know, when she actually sang that riff and everything. And tragically, she actually lost the baby because they called it in like late in like the early morning, late at night, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So, um, yeah, man. So that's enough about "Give Me Shelter." You know, we have songs like "Country Honk." You know, like I said, I'm not really a big country fan, but that was more like a country version of Honky Tonk Woman and shit like that too from Vegas Banquet. Live with Me, love that record. My favorite song, Monkey Man. Every time I hear that, dun 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 dun. Every time I hear that, it just gives me chills. Then they ended up beautifully with "You Can't Always Get What You Want." The only thing I didn't like about "You Can't Always Get What You Want" is that damn chorus in the beginning and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that I feel like that song right there definitely captures the theme of this album and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? So this is definitely a classic album. I'm gonna give this a 5 mic. All right. Now, the only live album I want to talk about when it comes to the Stones that guarantees discussion is 1970s "Get Your Ya-Ya's Out," Rolling Stones in concert. Yeah, this is actually my favorite live album they've ever done and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Um, this is actually the final release that they've done on the Decca record label and stuff like that too. You know, which yeah, this is the final release that they've ever done. So yeah, this actually was recorded during their infamous 1969 American tour. That was the same tour where they had that concert tragedy in Altamont and everything like that too, which that actually happened like days after Let It Bleed coming out. Because sometimes when people sometimes when people want to discuss Let It Bleed, they like to coincide that concert with Let It Bleed because of like what happening, and it kind of adds on to the dark atmosphere of the album. You know what I'm saying? Give me 1 second. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, so that's why with this album right here, again they just pretty much came out with this one and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, Mick Taylor is definitely front and center on a lot of these live performances and shit. I definitely love their performance of Jumpin' Jack Flash in the Madison Square Garden. That was a pretty dope one. I love their version of Sympathy for the Devil in this version in this album too. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, this album is definitely for diehard Stones fans. So I'm definitely giving that a 5 mics. So now we're gonna go into 1971, and this is a very important album when it comes to them and shit like that too, because this was the first album. The album I'm talking about is called Sticky Fingers, that they've done on their own label and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? And this was the first album, if I'm not mistaken, where um this was the first album and stuff where they don't actually have to owe Alan Klein shit. So the story goes with that was the fact that they signed a bad deal with Alan Klein, and once Mick Jagger figured that, oh, they were trying to screw him over with the royalties and the copyrights and everything like that too, he fired him. But since they fired him and stuff like that too, since they fired him, Alan Klein still got a percentage of the royalties from like 1963 to 1970, which means like anything that they did up into the Get Your Yayas Out, he had gotten like a percentage of that shit. You know what I'm saying? And Mick has tried to fight over that, and he sued and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't get like a lot of success. And you all know that Alan Klein passed away in 2009. Good riddance and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm not mistaken, think I think that deal is still active. I think, but I gotta look it up and everything like that too. And also a little trivia: Mick Jagger. It was reported that Mick Jagger also tried to warn Paul McCartney not to sign with Alan Klein, because you guys should know Alan Alan Klein also went with the Beatles after the Stones and stuff like that, and that was another one of the main reasons why Paul felt disillusioned with the group too at that time. You know what I'm saying? Because John Lennon pretty much was batting for Alan Klein, but Paul wanted to get people from his girlfriend at the time, who was ended up being his wife Linda, because Linda had a lot of family that was great with contracts, but then John forced George and Ringo and everything like that too. And again, I'm not trying to mention too much on the Beatles, but I feel like it's definitely needed and everything like that too. Yeah, Dartmouth. Yeah, we're gonna get into Sticky Fingers, but you know me, I gotta talk and everything. So with that being said, now we're gonna get into Sticky Fingers and shit. You know what I'm saying? 1971. Very, very, very dope album. This is actually my second favorite Rolling Stones album. It used to be my first. It used to be my first, but I think you guys know what my first is. So the thing with this album right here is just such a very rocking, very stripped album and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Very, very, very dope. I love this album. Not a bad song on this record. You have songs like Brown Sugar, very controversial song. You know what I'm saying? Very controversial song and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why it was controversial was because of the fact that a lot of the lyrics was like, let's be real, a lot of the lyrics was kind of raunchy. Like this was kind of some of the most raunchiest lyrics they've ever came out with up to that point and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Especially with them talking about like black women and stuff like that. Black women, not just black women, but like all women in general. But people want to focus on that part too. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny too because there's been plenty of women who came out to defend Mick Jagger, like one of his girlfriends at the time, Marsha Hunt, who was like an African American British model and stuff like that too. She claimed that the song was about her and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? And then you had one of the Ikettes, Claudia Lanier. Yes, Icantina's woman and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? She claimed that the song was about her. My thing is that Mick Jagger went around and stuff like that. He loves him some sisters, but that's another story for a different day. You know what I'm saying? So that caused like a lot of controversy and everything like that too. Me personally, I still fuck with the song and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? Like I still raise my eyebrows at some of the lyrics though, but it definitely fuck with it and shit. And then you got Sway, which is like a nice little bluesy track right there. Wild Horses, probably the Stones' most enduring ballad, maybe one of their more covered songs and stuff like that. A lot of people's favorite track on the album, but to me, I'm a Can You Hear Me Knocking? That is my favorite track. Every time I hear that opening riff, that da 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 boom, bum 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 bum. I was like, this song right here is like if you have a good speaker and you play that record, you're gonna fucking love that, especially that second half when they do that whole jazz outro and everything like that too. Which originally they were not supposed to have added that, but the producer that they were working with, Jimmy Miller, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Who worked with a lot of rock acts at the time, like Traffic and the Spencer Davis group and everything like that too. He definitely was working with them from Beggar's Banquet up into Goat's Head Soup. Excuse me. And I definitely feel he's one of the key ingredients next to Mick Taylor that definitely made this era of the Stones unique and shit like that. And then you also have songs like Bitch. Oh my god. One of the most underrated Rolling Stones songs ever with a very, very, very dope horn arrangement. Oh, come on, my nigga. Fucking Sister Morphine. Moonlight Mile. Niggas do not talk about Moonlight Mile. It's not even fucking funny. Like, oh my fucking god. Like, Sticky Fingers, man. This album itself is just such a phenomenal, phenomenal album and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? My only gripe with Sticky Fingers is that the album that came next, oh my god, blew this motherfucker out the way. Let's just say that. So after the release of Sticky Fingers, they ended up getting in trouble. They were never too far from trouble, unfortunately. And they ended up being like tax exiles and stuff like that too. So what had happened was they had to relocate to I think where was that? They had to relocate to France. Keith Richards, he rented a Villa Nel Conte. If I fucked up the name, French people, I'm sorry. He rented that out and they recorded the majority of their next album in that studio and everything like that too. And this led to, in my opinion, the best Rolling Stones album of all time, Exile on Main Street. And I think this is a lot of people's favorite Stones album and stuff like that. Now, I got a little story to say. I remember when I first heard this record, I didn't really care for this album too much. Hold on one second. I didn't care for this album too much because I don't know. I just felt like at the time when I listened to it, mind you, I heard this album when I was like in like middle school, when I was like experimenting with like classic rock. I didn't like the sound quality, but then when I grew up, I appreciated it more, and it definitely had like a more dustier, dirtier sound and everything. Even the album cover itself was phenomenal. I always loved that album cover and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Just all that. Like it kind of reminds me of going to like one of those late night bars and everything like that too. And like if you go into the bathroom, you see all these random pictures of like all like these influences and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. So this is a double album and stuff. So Exile on Main Street came out in 1972. Very, very, very great album. I love this fucking album and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? The I talked about this album recently when I did my 50 albums that changed my life, and this was among one of them. I always say that this is the album that was like their love letter to the black music that influenced them. It was bluesy, It was soulful. It got some boogie woogie. It got some gospel, like gospel and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? Um, like, and then even like the people that was contributing to this fucking album, like you got cats like Bobby Womack, Billy Preston, Joe Green. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and you know, Preston, Billy Preston himself, and everything like that too. He was like the motherfucking cheat code to a lot of the fucking rock and soul acts at the time. I know everyone loves him for songs like Nothing from Nothing and Going in Circles. I love all that shit too, but listen to some of his organ playing and some of those Beatles albums, the Stones, when he was playing with like Ray Charles, Aretha Frank. Yo, the Aretha Franklin live at the Fillmore East album. Oh my nigga. You had Aretha, you had Billy Preston, you had fucking Ray Charles in that shit, man. Come on, man. Like, nigga, come on, man. What the fuck we doing? Like, what the fuck we doing today, man? What the fuck we doing and shit? You know what I'm saying? But let's get to why we talking about the songs and shit. Like, Rock Soft and Rip This Joint together, like, already got you on to like dance and everything like that too. And then you get to songs like Tumbling Dice. Oh my God. In my opinion, Charlie Watts' best drumming he's ever done on a Rolling Stone song and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Like every time I hear that da na 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 da na da na da na na da da ooh ooh, like oh my, I was like, yo, this is some soulful fucking shit. Some soulful shit. But then it don't end because Keith Richards, man, he probably put out his best solo song with Happy. Like that song, Happy, man. I need a love to keep me happy. I need a love, baby. Won't you keep me, baby? Da 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 da. Oh my God, then Turn on the Run, Sweet Black Angel. But my favorite song on this record, I just want to see his face. I mean, that's probably the closest we've ever got to Stones doing like some gospel blues shit. I mean, every time I hear that fucking record, man, I just imagine Mick Jagger just going to like this church in the South and everything like that too, and just walk in and just getting enthralled by like the singing and just the atmosphere and the rhythm and everything like that too. That might be one of my all-time favorite Stone songs that they've ever done. Like the way how they even mix and master that song itself is so fucking genius and everything. I just want to see his face. Da, like Mick was killing it on that. Oh my God. Like shit. Fuck, man. Like I can't even fucking go on. Like it's a whole fucking double album of all the black influences that influenced them. That's the best way to describe this fucking shit. You know what I'm saying? Like 5 motherfucking mics. God damn. But yeah, man. So and we now we coming to the end of what many people consider like that classic period and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And so it got to the point where they were still going through some tax issues and everything like that too. And they ended up having to relocate to Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica to be exact. And that's when they were working on their next album, which was called Goat's Head Soup. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay. You guys know I don't like this album. And over the years, I've tried to, re-listen. I really, 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 really tried to re-listen to this album and see if I'm missing something. I really wanted to see if I'm missing something and everything. First of all, I fucking hate this. I fucking hate this album cover. Like I fucking hate this album cover to a fucking T. You know what I'm saying? I really, really hate this album cover. Like, this is what happens when a certain act gets so gets too much creative control and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like you got fucking Mick dressed up as a fucking goat and everything like that too, or some shit. I don't fucking know what the fuck he's doing. I don't fucking know, man. I don't know. Okay, let me be serious. Okay, so this was actually the last album that was produced by Jimmy Miller and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And you can definitely tell they were literally all burnt out by this time. Even Bill Wyman didn't even pee on everything on this fucking album and shit too. You know what I'm saying? But you still have a couple people from Exile returning. People like Billy Preston, of course. Nicky Hopkins, of course. Ian Stewart. He's always gonna be present anytime you need a smooth ass piano riff and everything like that too. All right, now the best song, "Dancing with Mr. D." Love that fucking song, and in my opinion, the sequel to "Symphony for the Devil," and I'm gonna cause some controversy. I actually like the song way more than "Symphony for the Devil." I'm gonna be real with you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the lyrics was just more darker. It was more darker, and then they added that more funk rock kind of feel to it and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, with Mr. Day, that record. I mean, son of a fucking bitch. That song is so fucking ill and everything like that too. One of my all-time favorite Keith Richards riffs he's ever done. I wish the album sounded more like that, but unfortunately, it is not. Now, to be fair, I did like 100 years ago. I do like that one. Coming Down Again was okay. Do 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 Heartbreaker. I did not. I like the beat. The beat was good. Um, Star kind of follows the whole. Let's just talk all shit about women and stuff like that and everything. Um, this this definitely was this definitely was a more. You can definitely tell they were trying to go for that more funkier route when it came to this album and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? Because when it came to like the previous albums, it was like a clear definition of what the sound was, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Um, Now a lot of people's favorite song on this album, Angie. I don't know what I think about this song. I'm gonna be real with you. It's definitely a very slow ballad and everything like that too. But at the same time, too, I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I don't like it. I mean, there's a a weird rumor, like a legend that happened that the song was named after David Bowie's wife, was his first wife, Angela, and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Because, and this is a weird rumor that Angela apparently caught Mick and David in bed together. That's kind of why they did song Angie as an apology, but that ended up being defunct. Um, there was also rumors that this was actually written about the actress Angie Dickinson and stuff like that too, who she appeared on like a lot of movies and stuff like that too. She's retired now and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? But it was actually reported that it was actually about Keith Richards' daughter, his newborn daughter at the time, Angela, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? That's what has been reported and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But mm, I I never really cared for this album. If I really want to listen to anything from this album, I mostly just start off with Dancing with Mr. D, and then maybe I might slide into maybe like a little bit of Heartbreaker, which is ironic because Led Zeppelin made a better song called Heartbreaker off Led Zeppelin 2, but that's another story for a different day. But this is definitely I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. Because honestly, I don't dislike it as much as I did years ago, but because there's one other album from the '70s that I don't like that, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. So now we're gonna go into 1974 with It's Only Rock and Roll. Um, so this is what I call another transitional album when it comes to the Stones and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm also gonna revisit Ghost Head Soup in a minute too. So I'm gonna come back to that album. So while they were working on this album and then the previous album, they were still dealing with a lot of rest and everything like that too. Court issues, which messed up a lot of the touring and everything like that too. And then Keith Richards also got arrested again and stuff like that too, you know what I'm saying, for drug possession. And fast forward to 1974, Bill Wyman actually dropped a solo album and stuff like that. He was actually the first Rolling Stones member to drop a solo album. A lot of people think it was Mick Jagger. No, it was Bill Wyman with the album Money Grip from 1974 and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? I've not heard the album and stuff. I gotta hear it one day, but yeah, man. Also too, with Jimmy Miller's being kind of burnt out from the Ghost Head Soup, making Keith did invite him back during the making of this album and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? But the true nail that it was really a transition was this was the last album that they had Mick Taylor in. Now, there's a lot of reports about why he actually left the group and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And it had a lot to do with, for one, he had during like late '73, he actually had surgery and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Surgery for like his like acute sinusitis and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And he missed a lot of sessions when they were working on the It's Only Rock and Roll album. This caused a lot of issues and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? And then also too was that Mick Taylor felt like he excuse me, Mick Taylor felt like he didn't get a lot of creative control when it came to like the songwriting and stuff like that too, you know what I'm saying? Because he felt like Mick and Keith was always writing all the songs. He wanted to contribute at least something and stuff like that. And whenever he had an idea, they would always kind of block it out and shit. You know what I'm saying? But he actually ended up co-writing a few songs here with Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger pretty much, was just like, yeah, we're just gonna let you do some shit here too. You know what I'm saying? However, what really set it off was like, what really set it off was like, it was reported that Keith Richards, pretty much didn't really, and McTaylor didn't really see eye to eye a lot of times during this time when this album was they were working on this album and shit. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like he just felt McTaylor just wanted like more creative control and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? So this is the last album that he did with them and whatnot, and so this is the album I would say that this was the first Rolling Stones album where they wanted to prove a point and stuff like that too. And what I mean by that is they wanted to work to sustain their impact and sustain their status as like one of the leading factors of rock and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. And it's interesting too because '74 and stuff like that too. A lot of rock music at that time was definitely getting more and more different. There was like a lot of interesting bands coming around that time. Led Zepp, Led Zeppelin was riding high at that time and shit. You know what I'm saying? And then of course you had groups like fucking Steely Dan coming out and shit. What was that other group? Give me one second. Sorry about that, my throat got dry. So yeah, groups like that, and then of course Paul McCartney and Wings was coming out at that same time too, and that Band on the Run album was definitely a commercial success and everything like that too. So the Stones definitely try to have a lot to prove, especially with like the mixed reception of Goat's Head Soup. So with this album right here, this was the first album where like Jagger and Richards took over the production and they went by the moniker the Glimmer Twins and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And so the things I can really just say pinpoint this album in three things. Is this album better than Goat's Head Soup? Yes. Did the Stones fulfill their mission with this album? You can say that. Can I still call this album brilliant? This is where I kind of struggle with the most and everything. You know what I'm saying? Because I do like the album. I do like the album a lot, but at the same time too, you can definitely tell like they were being comfortable at this point and everything. You know what I'm saying? Because even a lot of bands at that time that was blowing up when they were really first coming out had probably already broken up at that time too. Especially their musical rivals in the media, the Beatles and shit. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. And so with this album right here, they definitely try to have like a more again looser kind of sound and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. With this album right here was definitely them being comfortable and shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yes, songs like "If You Can't Rock Me," that's a nice way. That's a nice song to kick it off and stuff like that too. Then they did the cover of the Temptations, "Ain't Too Proud to Beg." You know what I'm saying? Which I want to say that's like the first cover in a couple of albums and stuff like that too. And it's nice that you see like the Motown covers still being prevalent and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely I definitely fuck with that. I definitely fuck with that cover. Then you got the title track, It's Only Rock and Roll, but I like it. Huh. That song even right there is just like that song itself is just like, yeah, I mean, it took me a while to really appreciate it and stuff like that too. You know, it took me a really good while to really appreciate that song, but it is what it is, and it's ironic too because Ronnie Wood, who at the time, who at the time was still with Rod Stewart and Faces and everything like that too. He pretty much worked with Mick Jagger on that record, which we'll definitely talk more about Ronnie Wood in albums to come and shit. You know what I'm saying? Um, the Mick Taylor song, like time. I think the song is like "Time Waits for No One" and "Luxury." Those were very good and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? It definitely had like a very distinctive jazziness towards it, which you don't really hear in a lot of Rolling Stone songs up to that point. But to me, my favorite track is the last track, Fingerprint File. Very funky track right there and everything like that too. Very funky. That kind of even has like a slight electronic feel to it. Like you had Bill Wyman on the synthesizer, Keith on the wah wah pedal, of course Charlie on drums, Billy Preston on clavinet and everything, Nicky Hopkins on piano and stuff like that. Like it is a very distinctive kind of record and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And even Mick Jagger plays rhythm guitar on that track right there too. You know what I'm saying? It's a very underrated song that I don't hear a lot of Rolling Stones heads talk about and everything like that too. And if anything, that is a nice finale when it comes to like the Mick Taylor. when it comes to like the McTaylor years of the album and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So even though I can't really say that it's only rock and roll reaches the classic heights between the 68 to 72, I can easily say like it's a very solid album and everything like that too. But at the end of the day, it proves that the Rolling Stones, it proves that the Rolling Stones can just be as comfortable and everything like that too without being groundbreaking, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? As long as the music is good, the music is good. So I'm gonna give this album a 4 out of 5. Definitely expect a review on this album one day. I think I do. Do I have this album? I about no. I don't think I got this one because I know recently I got a lot of Stones album recently, especially with the past collection video. So yeah, man. So with that being said, and everything like that too, Mick left, Mick Taylor, excuse me, left the group and everything, and now we're entering another transitional period from the Grant Band and everything. Like 74 and 76, those are another transitional period from the band. And in my opinion, they dropped, in my opinion, my least favorite album from that decade and everything. You know what I'm saying? Which might surprise some people and shit like that too. But at the same time, to hear me out with this is Black and Blue. This album came out in 1976. The way how Mick looks on this album is my same face for the enthusiast for the my feeling on this album as well too. So Jesus, where do I even begin with this? So with this album right here and everything like that too, with this album right here, they returned to Germany. They returned to Germany and shit like that, and they was really like getting more into like reggae and stuff like that too. So the most interesting thing with this album was that they had musical chairs of guitar players and everything like that too. Musical chairs of guitar players when it came to this album, when they were like rehearsing some guitar players, seeing what sound fits and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So they were just trying to play around with some things. They were just trying to play around with some things and see what definitely works and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, people like Peter Frampton trying out Shuggy Otis and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Jeff Beck, which was kind of crazy too. You know what I'm saying? Because Jeff Beck, Jeff Beck, he had his own band and stuff like that. He had his own band for a while and shit. And you know what I'm saying? He had a couple of good solo albums he came out with during the 70s. Most notably, in my personal opinion, I fuck with the Wired album, which that's the only Jeff Beck album I have in my collection as of right now, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So I was kind of surprised. I found out he tried to audition, but it is what it is, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So at the same time too, you know what I'm saying? They they succeeded with Ronnie Wood. Now, Ronnie Wood, you know what I'm saying? He's probably at that time he was probably best known for working with cats like the Faces and ironically the Jeff Beck group, which I just mentioned and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And he played on a few albums. Me personally, I mostly liked him when he was on Faces and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Up to that point. And Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, they felt like he was the right choice, and Bill and Charlie agreed too. You know what I'm saying? Plus, they wanted to keep the lineup pretty much purely British and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? So that also played a factor into why he was included in shit. You know what I'm saying? So, excuse me. Now y'all saw what. Now you see why I want to split this into two parts. Now I'm beginning to yawn and shit. That's why the camera is turned off a little bit. But yeah, man. So with that being said and everything, um, this album finally came out in 1976. They they were trying to now go back to that funky sound and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? That was kind of prevalent on Ghost Head Soup, but also they were experimenting with like other genres, like kind of like reggae and reggae as well too, while still trying to maintain that blues rock edge and stuff, that blues rock roots and everything like that. You know what I'm saying? Um, hmm, yeah, I don't really care for this album too much. You know what I'm saying? It has some joints though, like Hot Stuff. I feel like that might be like the best known song from this album and everything, especially when you want to just say how when you want to just describe the sound of the album, because the best way to describe this album really is it's an endless groove. That's the best way to describe the album and shit. You know what I'm saying? Because whenever I think of this album, it's just like it just makes you want to dance and groove out and everything like that too. Which I'm not mad about that, but it was just like it was just all groove songs and everything. Like Hot Stuff, yeah, that was a very dope joint. I love that joint right there. But you know, yeah, other joints, I don't really care. Like Memory Motel was okay. You know what I'm saying? Melody, I liked Melody. Melody was cool. Fool to Cry, that was a pretty slow groove kind of song and everything like that too. But it is what it is and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely gonna give this one a 2.5 out of 5 and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Not really one of my favorites in my opinion. So after the release of Black and Blue and everything like that too, you know what I'm saying? They had to go through another crisis where Keith Richards, Keith Richards and everything like that too, he was booked again in Toronto. No, he was booked again and everything like that in London and stuff like that too. Where like where what yeah London came back. He was booked again for drug possession, you know, heroin and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And this was a very crucial time because if he would have been found guilty, he would definitely serve some years in prison and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it definitely speaks volumes about that and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So he was going through all the legal issues, and around this time too, you know, Mick Jagger, you know, he was definitely like working on the album and wanted to capture the next direction with the group and everything like that too. Especially when you had like all these acts coming, like the punk rock and the new waves and everything like that too. So in 1977, they he, they dropped the live album like Love You Live and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And fast forward, you know what I'm saying? They will fast forward to like later on in 77 to 78 while they were working on this album. You know, Keith Richards pretty much, you know, had a lifesaver and everything. Oh shit, my fault. Keith Richards pretty much had a whole lifesaver and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? When apparently, I it's been said that a blind lady spoke about Keith Richards' character and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And how he should have like a lighter sentence and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So what ended up happening was the outcome of the drug case was that they had gotten like a suspended sentence and everything like that too. And Keith Richards had to play like two charity concerts for the Canadian Institute for the Blind which also I forgot to mention the lady that actually helped Keith Richards was a blind woman from Canada who apparently, had a good relationship with Keith and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And this actually this actually was a turning point for Keith Richards because that and the death of his third child, Tara, made him completely want to actually like stop heroin and everything like that too, you know what I'm saying? He tried to stop heroin and stuff like that too, you know what I'm saying? And it got to the point, he was just trying to change up his life because he didn't want to go through all that stuff again. So it was just like a wake up call. It was like Loki, just a wake up call and everything like that too. Now, now, while that was being said and everything, while Keith Richards was going through all that, Mick Jagger, he was being influenced by like a lot of different sounds, especially like him going to like the New York club at the time, like Studio 54, and he was definitely with his girlfriend at the time, the model Jerry Hall, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Because his marriage to Bianca ended around that time too, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So it got to the point where, just like with It's Only Rock and Roll and everything like that too, you know what I'm saying? They tried to prove a point. They try to prove a point and everything. Well, at this point, mostly Mick, because Keith Richards was still dealing with what he was dealing with and everything like that too. So fast forward to 1978, you got, in my personal opinion, the true comeback album when it came to the band and everything like that to Some Girls. Now, I love this fucking. First of all, I love this fucking album. This is such a very, very, very great album and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Um, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's a very great album and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? When it came to this album and everything, you pretty much saw Mick Jagger being the more creative force behind this album and everything like that too, especially with him being more influenced by dance music and disco and everything like that too. Now, before I go on with this breakdown, give me 1 second because I have a lot of things to say about this album that sometimes I feel gets unfair. So when it comes to this album, um, a lot of people like to always say, "Oh, this is the Stones doing disco and everything like that." Too, you know what I'm saying? And I hate when people pull out that notion. I hate when people pull out that notion because if you guys actually hear the album, if you guys actually hear the album, clearly it's not a purely disco album. You're not dealing with like a Saturday Night Fever. You're not dealing with Silla Chic and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? And let's talk about. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, you're not dealing with a Saturday Night Fever, Silla Chic, and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? You, you're pretty much dealing with a Stones having all of the influence all in one basket and everything like that of the times and everything. Because songs like Miss You, which is actually my favorite track on this album, is very, very, very dope. And people like to say, oh, that's a disco song. I can see where people say that. I can definitely see where people say that, but it definitely had like a lot of blues leaning to it and everything like that too. Like a lot of blues leaning and everything, which I definitely loved. Um, and also too is just like you had songs like "When the Whip Comes Down." I love that record. Again, um, again, you had the Motown influence. They did a cover of "Just My Imagination" from the Temptations. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I didn't really care for this cover too much as "Ain't Too Proud to Beg." I feel like "Ain't Too Proud to Beg" fit them more than "Just My Imagination" in terms of cover and everything. But it's still pretty decent and everything like that too. You know, them not getting rid of their love for soul music and everything. I can admit that. Then you got Some Girls, which continues on with the controversy, continues on with the controversies of like women, the criticism with women and everything like that too. You know, talking about how some girls like to fuck, some girls, all that crap and everything. You know what I'm saying? Like this is like on the same level as like Brown Sugar and everything. And I definitely dig this song too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, this was definitely another controversial song. You know what I'm saying? So and then you know you still have their country leanings like Beast of Burden and everything, which I don't care what no one says. I love Beast of Burden and everything like that too. I don't want to be your beast of burden. You know what I'm saying? It definitely had like a more bluesy, country kind of feel. Respectable, probably the closest they've ever done to like a straight up punk rock song. The video to that song was very good. I love how raw that video was and everything. You know what I'm saying? Um, very, 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 very dope. And the best way to end off this album, Shattered. Love that record. You know what I'm saying? Even I do have to make a mention with Keith Richards before they make me run and stuff like that too, you know what I'm saying? Which I definitely feel is another very dope song that also just like with Miss You captures the theme of this album with what Keith was going through and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? This is a five mic album. This is such a very, very, very dope album and everything. You know what I'm saying? However, this is the album that I personally feel caused the beginning of the cracks between Mick and Keith's relationship, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like a lot of that had to do with like creative control and stuff like that too, and just what they were like, how their mind states was at this time. You know what I'm saying? So let's go into the next album, Emotional Rescue and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Now, before we get into that, we got to talk about what they were going through. So, after the release of Some Girls, that was pretty much like their comeback album and stuff like that too. That got them more recognition and shit. You know what I'm saying? And so, one of the things that was really interesting was the fact that Keith wanted to tour. Uh, what? What? Before I get to that, excuse me. Before I get to that, um, they were actually, you know, working on this album in the majority of like 1979 and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And you know, Mick was still going through the high of the Some Girls where he wanted to really experiment with that disco dance kind of feel and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And they were working on a lot of songs during this period and shit. You know what I'm saying? So with this album and everything like that, with this album and everything like that too, they definitely had a very had a very fun feel to it. I'm not gonna say a fun feel. and that is 1980's Emotional Rescue. Now, this is an album that took me a while. This was a while that it took me a while to really fully appreciate it and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Sound wise, it's not really as ambitious as some girls and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, they definitely, they definitely. I'm gonna be real. This is the album that makes you want to groove. Like this is Black and Blue done right and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? This is Black and Blue done right. You know, and with this album right here, they definitely focus more like on the danceable side of tracks and everything like that too. Like songs, the title track is probably my favorite track on this album, and it gives you a very haunting. It gives you a very haunting, funkier backdrop. It's like the beat. It's like the beat definitely is funk, but at the same time too, it still has that bluesy edge to it, and it still has that groove. And then Mick Jagger, the way he's singing the song, I always love the way he's singing. How he's singing it in this very high register, and then by the time you get to the second half, he's like singing with the high register and the low register together and stuff like that too. Um, and so this definitely, is definitely one of my favorite vocal performances he's ever done and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Send It To Me was pretty dope. I love that one. Down in the Hole was cool. She's So Cold. That was another fun song right there. That also had a very funny music video and shit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this is not as good as Some Girls. I'll admit that. But at the same time too, I do feel that it is a very fun album. It's a very danceable album. I'm gonna give this album a 4 out of 5. And now, finally made it to the end of part one. I want to give a shout out to my boy Try. This is like his favorite album from the Stones, and one of my favorite albums too. Probably mm, the Stones album I can probably put next to the classic period. Tattoo You, 1981. This is one of my favorite albums of all time from them. Like this whole album is such a very dope sound and everything like that too, you know what I'm saying? So the story with this album is the fact that we were still going through some issues between Mick and Keith, you know what I'm saying? And Keith Richards wanted to tour more for Emotional Rescue, but Mick did not really want to tour for that album like that. You know what I'm saying? But they somehow relented and everything like that too after the success of Emotional Rescue. So with them going to be on tour, they didn't really have a lot of time to actually write new songs for the album like that. You know what I'm saying? So what they did was they actually wanted to go through the vaults and everything like that too and get like a lot of songs that they did like around like the early 70s, like during like the maybe like the Goat's Head Suit era, some Exile songs, and then even some songs during like the Emotional Rescue era and everything like that too. And the thing about that was there was some controversy with that because notice how I said 1972, 1973, the Exile and Ghost Head Soup era. You got to remember, Mick Taylor was a member of the band at that time. And so, with them taking the tracks, clinishing them, and refurbishing them, and everything like that too, they still left some of Mick Taylor's guitar riffs and everything like that too. And he wasn't credited. He wasn't credited for that. So he got upset and he was just like, yo, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this shit with y'all again. I'm not doing this shit with y'all again and everything. You know what I'm saying? So I think like they had like some settlement and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And so that was what led to like the Tattoo You album coming out in 1981. Excuse me. Um, this is a very great album. I love this album. I love the way how this album was sequenced. Like the first half of the album was like the rocking songs and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Like it started off with probably one of the most iconic songs, "Start Me Up." If you start me up, then if you start me up, I never stop. You know what I'm saying? That is like an iconic song and everything like that too. Probably like one of the signature songs, especially when people want to talk about like latter Rolling Stones and shit. And then you have "Hang Fire," a nice little surf rock groove and everything. "Slave," dun 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 dun. Oh my god! Oh god! Very dope record. Lil TNA. But then the second half, and I'm gonna be real with you, the second half of the album is my favorite part of that whole album and everything like that too, because they smoothed it out for y'all. They smoothed it out for y'all with some soul and some blues rock. I'm looking at myself like, whoa, no, wait a minute. We were just starting it up and talking about some little TNA. Now we're talking about waiting on a friend and tops. First of all, worried about you. Beautiful song. Love that run. Tops. I'll take you to the top, baby. Hey, baby. I swear we're never gonna stop. Oh, come on. Oh man, I love that record. Mick's singing on that one was amazing. No Use in Crying was dope. Of course, of course, probably the best known ballad from this album, "Waiting on a Friend." Do 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 do. I mean, that was a very, very, very interesting track right there and everything like that too. And I feel like that's the perfect song that just perfectly describes Mick and Keith's relationship and everything like that as friends, musical partners, etc. Now, before I end my thoughts on Tattoo, I hate when people always want to say, "Oh, well, Tattoo You, that's not a true Stones album because it's just outtakes and everything like that too." You know what I'm saying? Okay, yeah, it's outtakes, but let me tell you something though. You guys love Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti. And like I said, I love Physical Graffiti too. That's a dope album. But a lot of those songs on that album were songs that they did like some of them songs they did like during the House of the Holy era and shit like that too. So some of them songs are outtakes from previous albums. What else? What else? What else? Damn. I can't think right now, because I've been doing this shit for like 2 hours and shit. You know what I'm saying? But I sometimes hate when people sometimes when they come up with that fucking notion about motherfucking Tattoo You and everything like that too. And keep in mind, they still reworked some of the songs and stuff like that too, you know what I'm saying? And if you guys even want to hear the OG version of the song, you can easily listen to them on YouTube. I'm gonna be real with you. A lot of those versions are not of the best quality, and a lot of those versions are not off the best quality and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time too, it's still worth a listen. It's still worth a listen and shit. You know what I'm saying? So Tattoo You is a perfect five mic album, and this is the perfect stopping point right here. You know what I'm saying? Because you notice that Tattoo You Tattoo You and everything like that too is like one of those albums that Tattoo You is one of those albums that a lot of people sometimes want to say this is the best album since Tattoo You and everything like that too. And now when we talk about the latter albums next week and everything like next week Friday, you're gonna witness how like a lot of those you're gonna witness how like a lot of those albums sometimes fail to capture that height and everything. But I have a lot of interesting things to say. I have a lot of interesting things to say about a lot of those later albums when we talk about the Stones. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of those albums, I'm I have a soft spot for a lot of those albums. I have a new way of thinking about them and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? And again, I really wanted to do everything all at once, but at the same time too, this has been a week, and I really have to get ready for this thing I gotta do this Sunday and stuff like that too. Because I don't even think I'm gonna get any sleep. I don't really think I'm gonna get any sleep anytime soon and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, thank y'all so much for watching part one of the Rolling Stones breakdown and everything like that too. Just some things I want to mention before I head out and everything like that too. Next week I do plan on doing the Why Did I Get Married movie review next week. I'm definitely gonna have a few surprises here and there and shit. You know what I'm saying? So definitely stay tuned on that. Stay tuned on some more dope content. Stay tuned on some more dope content and everything like that too. Um, if push comes to shove, my goal is to definitely talk about this album. I'm gonna do this part two next week Friday. If push comes to shove and some shit happens and stuff like that too, I'll let you guys know ahead of time. Say, hey, I'm gonna reschedule this. If not next week Friday, then definitely next week Saturday and everything. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like I'm gonna be off next week Saturday anyway. So thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all niggas later. Peace.